Hey, it's Mark Lynn here with your video thought for the day. All right, 1 Corinthians in 4 minutes. Are you ready? Let's do it this way. Anybody ever come up to you and say, how are you doing? Not just as a platitude, but actually they want to know, how are you doing? And you sit there and you think about it and you think, well, I'm doing all right. Or you think, I'm not doing that good. And then you think, but do they really want to hear? And you think, I don't know. And you got all that stuff going on. Well, Paul wrote a letter to a church at Corinth. Actually, he wrote a number of them. But one of his letters we call 1 Corinthians. And it fascinates me because Paul starts out by calling them not only a wonderful church, but as saints and people that are manifesting God in this world through their church. And yet, as you read the letter, they had all sorts of horrible problems. I mean, they couldn't get along. They didn't get along with each other. They didn't even agree on who was the better preacher or teacher. Some of them were suing each other. Some of them were in sexual relationships with each other that they shouldn't have been in. Some of them are messed up in the way they worship. Some of them are just not even understanding the work of God in their lives and in the life of Jesus. And they have so many problems. And yet, Paul sees them as the work of God in progress. And that's a remarkable thing for me because I can have a host of problems, but know that God is at work in me. So let me put 1 Corinthians out there for you in just 3 quick points. First, I really want you to understand the unity amid division. Paul wasn't happy to let the church be divided. In fact, in 1 Corinthians 1:10, he says, I appeal to you, brothers and sisters, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that all of you agree with one another in what you say. There shouldn't be divisions among you. You should be united in mind and thought. And it's not surprising if you know much about Corinth, because Corinth was a wealthy, diverse city, like a modern metropolitan area. And the church itself reflected that diversity. As my friend Louis Miori says, people are people, and the church is full of them. So Paul says, don't be divided. Christ wasn't divided. Christ was singular, and you should be as well. A second point is Paul really takes this opportunity to confront cultural compromise by many of the people of the church. They were trying to blend their Christian faith with worldly values. Does that sound familiar? Of course, theirs were a little bit different, but this is lawsuits among the believers, sexual immorality, questions about food offered to idols and sacrifice and then eating it. And Paul's consistent message on all of this is that the death and resurrection of Christ, our focus on the cross, the gospel, should transform the way we see things. So we look and say, well, you know, we are now free to do whatever, but that doesn't mean whatever is beneficial. And there's this balance between freedom and responsibility that Paul addresses as he tries to make people understand that the goal is not to be the happiest you can be in life. The goal is to live in fellowship with God and in union with God. And that leads to the third and maybe most important point. Love is the best way. Chapter 13 of 1 Corinthians has that great story of God's love and what it means for us as we live in relationship, that what love is. And it's not just about what we're doing, but it is about all of our life. Without love, our best deeds, our best words, our best thoughts are really not worth much at all. So what do we do with this today? Well, let's start by living, seeking Christ and God's love for us and his sacrifice for us as the compelling drive to help us understand the world and our place in it. And then let's love everyone the way he loved us. Think about it. It's your video thought for today.